Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Icon Online. I'm so glad that all of you are joining us today. Hello to everyone in the chat. Just glad to have all of you with us today. We have a few things today. Today there's like multiple different things to celebrate and honor, and so we're going to get into that here in a second. But before we do that, just a couple of kind of housekeeping things to go over. First of all, if you are new and you have never had a chance to fill out a Connect card, we would love to invite you to do that. You can just click on the Connect button in the chat and it will take you to a place where you can fill that out, just so that you can get added to our email list and like our text message list, so that way you can stay informed on all the things that we may have coming up around here when we have in-person gatherings or events or special services or anything like that. That's a great way for you to be able to stay connected. And then secondly, to all of you who continue to faithfully and generously give to Icon, thank you so much for your generosity. And if you would like to give this morning, you can just click on the give button in the chat. And we have recently switched to a new giving platform, so you may notice, if this is your first time giving since the switch, you will notice that it's going to take you to a different platform that is legitimate. You may have to quickly create an account, which takes next to no time at all. But if you would like to give this morning, you can go ahead and click on that button and do so. And then also, for any of you that may find yourself in a place of need, maybe there's, I think we're all experiencing the effects of just financially. I think for a lot of people, things are hard right now. So if that's you and you could use just someone to come alongside you and partner with you and to help out with some bills or with groceries or whatever that may be, we would love for you to send us an email and let us know, so we can chat with you and see how we can come together and partner alongside you to help meet those needs. Okay, so today is a really special day, and this is going to be a little bit of a longer service than usual, because today we are bringing to you a community conversation, which I know that's like, I've heard from so many people that the conversations that we record and play for Messages on Sundays is like one of people's favorite things that we've been able to implement since being virtual. So we do have a community conversation to bring you today. But before we do that, I just want to kind of go through and talk about some of these things that we're celebrating today. For starters, it's Father's Day today, so happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. And I want to just say a few things, because I know that similar to Mother's Day, this day comes with a wide array of feelings. It can be a really complicated day for some people, it can be a painful day for some, and a celebratory one for others. And so just to those of you today who maybe you're grieving the loss of your dad, I'm with you, that's me. To those who deeply desire to be a father, and up to this point, maybe life circumstances have just made it to where that just hasn't happened for you yet. To those who are grieving the loss of a child or a broken relationship with your dad, or for dads that are suffering broken relationships with your kiddos. To those for whom this day brings up painful memories or complicated emotions, we just want to take a minute and let you know that you are seen and you are loved, and that we recognize and we honor the ways in which this day might be hard for you. And for those of you who find meaning and celebration in today, we honor you and we celebrate you. Today we honor all the men in our lives who have fathered us, who have stood by us and cheered us on, who have believed in us and supported us. So to all the foster dads, the stepdads, the honorary dads, the single dads, we just want to say to all of you, a very happy Father's Day. And then secondly, another celebratory thing about today is also Juneteenth. So happy Juneteenth to all of our Black siblings. We are so, we love you, and we want you to feel so honored and celebrated today. Today it's a day when we commemorate when enslaved African Americans in Texas finally learned of their freedom. And so white folks, to all the white folks who are watching today, or other people of color, today would be a great day for us as white people to pay some reparations and find some ways that we can financially support Black businesses and community organizations. It's a great day to provide care for the Black folks in your life and to find ways to help them experience joy and rest. And so to all of our Black siblings, just know that you are loved, you deserve rest, you deserve goodness, you deserve joy. So today and every day, we celebrate and we honor you, and we continue to commit to working for a world that is more just and more safe for you, so that you can flourish and so that you can have the joy and the rest and the care that you deserve. And lastly, we are also celebrating Pride today. So today is like our special celebration of Pride service that we're doing. Today, for those of you who maybe aren't real familiar with kind of where Pride comes from or why we celebrate, Pride originated as a commemoration of the 1-year anniversary of the Stonewall riot that occurred in June of 1969, when New York City law enforcement violently raided a gay bar called the Stonewall Inn. And in response to this, following that were 6 days of protest, which were led by Black and brown activists. We have 3 trans women of color that we want to honor today who were at the helm of this movement. We have Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and Miss Major Griffin Gracie. And to this day, LGBTQ activists, advocates, and their allies continue the fight for equality and flourishing. And so today, to all of our LGBTQ siblings who are watching, this is a reminder to you that you are loved. You are made in the image of God exactly as you are, that you are celebrated. You are needed in the church. You are celebrated not in spite of your queerness, but because of it. You are a gift to this world and to this church. And as a faith community, we commit to doing everything we can to advocate for your full rights and for your full humanity to be honored. And we will continue making it our mission to work to be a safe place for you. And it's our goal to be your ally. And we love you and we celebrate you. And we are just so much better as a world and as a church because of you. So today, in honor of celebrating Pride, we're going to bring to you a conversation today for the message. And it's one that I had with a few LGBTQ members of our very own faith community. And these 3 folks were so gracious to share parts of their stories with us. And it was just a really beautiful and vulnerable conversation. There's so much power in us listening to the stories of others. And so I just want to invite you today to listen in, to really open up your heart to the things that these folks are saying. And I do want to give just one slight trigger warning for you. There is some discussion around the topic of suicide. And so I just want to give you a little bit of warning that is going to be briefly touched on in this conversation, as one of our community members so vulnerably shares part of their story with us. And so for any of you that might be difficult for, I just wanted to make sure and say that up front. So we're going to go ahead now, and we're going to first go into a time of worship with Arlene. And then following that, we'll go into our conversation, and then we'll come back here just for a minute or 2 at the end so I can give you a couple more announcements, and then we'll wrap up for today. So in whatever way is meaningful or comfortable for you, we invite you to join us in worship. If singing songs of worship is kind of difficult for you or uncomfortable in any way, feel free to mute or to walk away for a bit and then come back. We just want everyone to connect with the divine in whatever way is most meaningful for you. So let's worship together, and then we will go into today's conversation.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. You're worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Lead me in your love, oh yes, and I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you. My Can't go back to the beginning. Can't control what tomorrow will bring. But I know here in the middle is the place where you promised to be. I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? As I walk now through the valley, let your love rise above every fear, like the sun shaping the shadow. In my weakness, your glory appears. I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? Yes, God, yes. Not for a minute was I forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Come, Holy Spirit, dry bones awaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Not for a minute was I forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Come, Holy Spirit, dry bones awaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Yes, the Lord is in this place. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want 'cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? Yes. Meet me here again. Yes, yes.
Well, welcome everyone to Icon. We're so glad that all of you are joining us today, and I am really, really excited about this conversation that we're about to have. Because it is Pride Month this month, we wanted to designate a Sunday just to talking a little bit more about that and really celebrating what all of our beloved LGBTQ plus siblings bring to the body of Christ, and just kind of listen to some stories and to some experiences, and just be able to have the chance to celebrate and to learn from these amazing individuals who are joining us today. So before we jump into our questions, if y'all could just each take a second and just kind of briefly introduce yourself, maybe tell us a little bit about who you are, maybe how you got connected to the church, that sort of thing. And then we'll get going into the questions. So whoever wants to start, feel free to jump in.
Hi, Icon. For those who don't know me, my name is Dave. I live in Northwest Austin. I found Icon through a friend some years back, and I've fallen in love with the community and the service, and I'm happy to be here.
We're happy you're here too.
So, I'm Pastor Sabrina Jennings. This is my husband, Locke. Well, I'll let him introduce himself. I'm ordained in the United Church of Christ, and I first got connected with Icon. I met Pastor Kelly and Dan when I was working with Austin Interfaith, and just got to know a little bit about the church, and then was excited when Kelly shared with me about the process they went through to become fully inclusive. And so Locke and I went to check out, kind of the kickoff when they made it official and did the Clarity series. And we went to the services to check it out, and just really loved it, and really appreciated the way everything was talked about so openly, and the way it was handled, and just felt safe and comfortable there. And so we've made it our church home since then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I'm Locke, and yeah, on that note, like when we first went, it was like I was like, finally a church that's bringing up like all the points and going through everything, like, and just addressing it head on, and um, like uh, just immediately like I felt like a sense of comfort and belonging, and that I had like I don't know, I just immediately felt like it was my home church, and I had been away from the church for a while because of previous bad experiences that we've had. Like we've gotten kicked out of church twice, so it was really really hard for me to like get over that, I guess, like because like and we'd find a church, it would be like our family kind of.
Yeah.
And so it was like kind of like losing our people. So but usually it takes me a while to like a few visits to figure it out, but this church was different. I was just like, yeah, like I think this is our home church. So
That's so awesome. Well, I'm so glad that all of you did find Icon, and I'm so glad our paths crossed. And I know my life is better for knowing all of you. So I'm just really, really, really grateful. Um, so I guess kind of, and that is actually a really great segue. I don't even have to make one up. Like, that's a great segue into our first question. But I just wonder if each of you could take a few minutes and share with us a little bit about what your journey has been like being a queer person and a Christian. Just kind of what that's looked like for you. Any and all, anything you want to share about that experience. If you want to talk about some difficult aspects or some celebratory aspects of that, whatever direction you want to take it is totally fine. We just love to hear a little bit about your experience.
so I guess I'll go again. Like I guess it was a little bit different for Sabrina and I because like um we up until I was 33, like I didn't know I like didn't know how to pinpoint that I was trans. And so we just lived this life of like being a lesbian couple. Um and like it's I I don't know. It was like now we can go to any church and kind of more or less be a stealth straight couple. Um so it which is nice, but like I do want to support my people, but
Sure.
um yeah, it was the first time it was kind of like we talked to our Bible study group and like you can explain that one.
Oh, well, yeah, when we came out to them and um, they, kind of gave us an opportunity to like share what we believed the Bible said. But I mean, any of those kind of conversations always feel a little preset
Sure.
already. Um, and so in the end, they said, well, we just, because we should be in unity. And so since we're not in unity about this and like we believe it's wrong, um, like we can't have y'all in the group anymore, in the Bible study group. And um, so we stopped going to that church altogether. And then from there, we would check out various churches, but it kind of became um, a thing where you go into a new church and you look around and you scour and you see, okay, what kind of pamphlets do they have? What does the,
Yeah.
little doctrine booklet say? Um, and pretty much as soon as we would find the, homosexuality is a sin and da da da, we just leave.
Or
Yeah.
even like they would there was one time we went to this outdoor church in Lockhart and um we were trying it out and the preacher guy was like and stealing and homosexuality and I was like let's go, like let's just leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, I was like I'm not even gonna get attached to this and like
Yeah.
uh, but
Yeah. So those were the, some of the hard times, but I grew up very churched. Um, I grew up Seventh Day Adventist, and um, there are, so there are still things that I appreciate about the way I grew up, and like faith was just such an integral part of our lives. It wasn't this separate thing like, oh, now we go to church on this one day and then that's it. It was just, so integrated into
Mm.
every day. Um, but it was a real, that did create a real struggle um, when we fell in love, and I believed that it was wrong. Um,
Mm.
felt that like I had fallen into sin and needed to be strong, or pray to God for strength to resist the temptation and that sort of thing. And it was just a very, um, I guess, unhealthy kind of thinking
Yeah, the
Yeah.
for a
first year
while.
was a roller coaster of like, we can do this, we can't do this. Like, this is right, this isn't right. So it
Yeah.
was really, really hard.
I drove him crazy. So
But I mean, you've got this like, because it's like this juxtaposition between like who you are, and you know that that's who you are, and you know that that isn't going away, that isn't changing, So there's that, but
Yeah.
then you've got this religious establishment that's telling you, that so I can imagine the inner turmoil that had to have inflicted has to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, and it's like I don't understand, like, how can love be a sin?
Mm.
Like, I love this person, how can, if God is love, like, how, I I don't know. I couldn't yet, like, refute all the points or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I just,
Mm-hmm.
like, didn't understand how something like that could be a sin. So
Yeah. Sure.
yeah, and it was kind of different for me because I was yet a baby when we met. I was 16 when we met. Um, and so I actually, at the time, like before I met him, I mean, being anything but straight wasn't even a possibility in my mind. Like,
Mm.
real people aren't actually gay. That was just like something you would call other kids at school. Um,
Mm.
and like, you know, make fun of people. Um, but yeah, it was, we fell in love, and then it was just like after a while, I couldn't comprehend how, if I'm doing my best and my hardest to follow God and do what's right, but somehow like I'm being told that loving this person is wrong, and like, oh, now even though if I think I'm doing the best I can, I've screwed up and suddenly I've lost my salvation.
Mm.
Like, it just, those pieces didn't fit after a while. I couldn't
Yeah.
understand a God who would be like, oh, even though you were trying your best, like, and you thought you were okay, you screwed up and that's it. I'm
Yeah.
done with you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for sharing that. I appreciate you guys sharing that part of your story. Dave, what about you? What has your experience been like with your faith?
It's a hard question to answer, and I know the answer. It's just difficult to put into words.
Sure.
I grew up very Roman Catholic. There's a term if you're like a Catholic since birth, it's the cradle Catholic, is what they call you.
Mm.
And the town that I grew up in was a very small, like conservative town. And then if you add on Hispanic or Mexican Catholicism alongside Irish Catholicism, you got this like one big whopping of just Catholic everywhere. uh, and it was difficult growing up in an area where you felt like you didn't really fit in. Um, I remember going to church and being extremely fascinated by it. I loved being at church. I loved serving. I was an altar server for many years, well into like my late adolescence. And then from there, I became a youth leader, and then I became a teacher, um, all while kind of discerning and battling this inner turmoil of who I truly was, and knowing that if I exposed myself, so to say, it would not end well for me.
Mm.
And I very much had this weird childish fear, and it still sometimes arises in the back of my mind, especially when I enter like a religious setting that that I'm gonna catch fire. Um,
Ooh.
and it was just hard. It got to a point around when I was 14 or 15 that I hit a very low point. Um, I'm the eldest out of three children, so I was expected to like hold family values and teach my younger siblings how like a good Catholic adult would be in their life. So being gay and and single and not really, I guess, fitting their image was difficult. And I reached a point in my life where I bluntly put did not want to be alive anymore. And I tried. I waited until everybody was out of the house. I was home alone. I found some stuff in my mom's like medicine cabinet, and I was very much ready to go. Um, but I think because of how integrated I was as a youth and as a child with my faith, my logic and reasoning got the better of me, and I'm very happy that it did, saying that I'm not making the situation better if I like off myself. And I put whatever I had back in my mom's medicine cabinet, had like a cry for maybe 20 minutes, breathed, and then sucked it up and went about my day like nothing happened.
Wow.
Um, 2 years later, I reached another low point where I was like, okay, you just gotta like take this because I don't want it. Like, if this is what love is supposed to be, I don't need it. So I joined seminary to be a priest at 15 or 16 years old because that was my way.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, that was my way of praying the gay away. I was very excited. I will not deny myself that. I was very excited. I was looking forward to it. But I got let go probably a year in during the summer because I was under suspicion of questioning. In the Catholic world, you're not supposed to have any questions. The rule is law. um, and I was let go. I wasn't really given a reason. They just said, like, hey, you know, you've had your time here. We've spoken to your spiritual counselors, your therapists, your psychologists. I had to go through so many written exams and so many like psychological exams to even be entered into seminary. I was in a group of 40 men, and I was the youngest person, and I was already getting a lot of lip about being young because it jumped from this kid who was like 16 years old to a man who was well into his mid 20s. They were just confused by it all. Looking back on it now, I'm very happy that I didn't go that route because I knew that it wasn't as much as I could be this figurehead, so to speak, for like my congregation and like the people there at the church. I knew that it was also for my own personal gain, and that's not what a priest is supposed to be in my mind. It's supposed to be this like all loving, all encompassing person, but there's rules and bylaws that you have to follow, and I didn't fit that picture. So it was better off that I left. When I moved to Austin, it was a culture shock because everybody's to some extent liberal over here,
Yeah.
and it freaked me out like how like liberal it was. I was like, what are y'all drinking? Where's this tea that you guys are drinking? But it was also extremely refreshing because for the first time in my life, I was this like 19, 20-year-old trying to figure out my life and going to this private school that is extremely expensive, but it was awesome. And kind of just figuring out myself. But I hate to say that I lost my faith in a way because I had been burned so much. I think I was raised with a script in how a perfect Christian Catholic child should look like, and because I didn't fit that mold, I did not belong in a church. I stopped doing ministries. I stopped singing. I used to sing a lot in the church, and I miss it. But every time I would sing, I felt like it was blasphemous or like wrong to like share or show yourself in that manner in a church when you're living a sin. So I stopped altogether. During a performance, and I kind of just sat down for the remainder of the service. And I kind of took that as a sign, like, okay, well, I'm just going to step away for a good while. And then I started church hopping, very much like couch surfing, trying to figure out where and if I belonged. So when I came across Icon and your clarity sequence, I remember telling Dan, and I think I approached you, Kelly, and I was like, this is wild to me. Like, this is so foreign. The idea that you're this religious institution telling me that it's okay and I can do things and I can love who I want is like, are you okay? It's just unheard of. And
well, had you up until that point, like, were you still? Because obviously, all you'd ever been taught was that this is sinful, you know. So, did you still feel that way about yourself at that point, or had you already kind of into an affirming position of your own self by that point?
It had gotten better, but I also was not where I wanted to be.
Gotcha.
I enjoyed the first service with Icon, but I was also very what's the word I'm looking for? Not cynical, but very like guarded. I felt like it was this kind of like there was a catch. There's a catch 22 to everything in my mind at that. That's how I felt. So when I realized that, like, hey, you know, this is an actual thing. Like, there's an actual religious institution where I can feel safe and not catch fired. It was a very refreshing and nice experience. And I won't say that I'm better because I'm not. I'm still having to unlearn this like mental script that I have in my head just because I've had so many years of it. So it's difficult to unlearn something. But I think things like this, talking with you and Sabrina and Locke, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's a cool name, by the way.
Thank you.
It's nice because I feel like we're also at a place where it's good to have these conversations, and it's something I would have wished I had when I was, 14, 15, and in that dark place where I was ready to go. So
Yeah.
I see this as not only an opportunity for me to learn myself, but also provide comfort to others.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I'm just like, I just feel really lucky that I get to hear y'all's stories and that you trust this space enough to be able to share those things. So thank you for sharing those. Lockwood, do you guys have anything else to add along the lines of that first question?
Yeah. Well, that just really touches me, David. You saying, you wish your 14-year-old self had something like this. Because, yeah, I've thought at times about, um, 16, 17-year-old me. Like, if there had just been one person, somebody to just say it's okay and
Yeah.
let me know that I was okay,
Yeah.
um, that would have been so powerful, and meant so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so hopefully we can, do that for our youth now.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep. And even for other, adults who maybe are in a similar place where, Dave, how you were saying, like, when something is ingrained in you for so long, it takes a long time to unlearn and to reimagine or to, think differently. And so, that's in our faith community here, that's our hope, is that it can be a place where people can have conversations and ask questions and wrestle with their faith and just be able to be fully who they are and to know that they're celebrated for that. Like, it's not, you get to be who you are with the hopes that you will someday change, but that you get to be fully who you are and be celebrated. Yeah, that's,
Or like, well, you condone it, but we don't really talk about it.
yeah, yeah. Yep,
Next,
that's the case far too often. Yep,
Okay.
yep, for
and
sure.
a funny little side story, and then I'll let you move on to the next question, Kelly.
No,
But
I'm good. I love this.
talking about your culture shock to Austin, and yeah, how those things you grew up with just hang on. I mean, I had been away from the Seventh Day Adventist Church for years and years when I started seminary, um, and we went together to this like open house thing they had before the new freshmen started, and they were drinking there, and I was just like, there's a lot of alcohol here, everybody's drinking, this is so weird.
That
That's
that reminds
awesome.
me of the first time when I was driving my car around Austin. I was trying to get to school because I was living in Kyle with my godmother, my uncle at the time, and I would drive to St. Ed's to go to school when I was a junior, and I would take South Park Meadows as like a shortcut and then drive on SoCo all the way up. And I remember the first time a car like let me get in a lane. I was just mind blown, and they like waved to me from their car window, and I was just like, I don't know how somebody like let me get in a lane before, and so it was a great experience. I hoped that person had like an amazing day.
that's
I wished them
that's
like all the luck.
that's amazing. Oh, okay. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. So, um, with this question, I think sometimes, and I think it's so important to hear the stories of hardship and pain, and it's really important for those things to be talked about and for people to be able to be honest and vulnerable about those things. And it's also important that that isn't the only focus of conversations about being gay or queer or trans and a Christian, because I think there's so much to be celebrated about that. And I think that there are, I'm sure, things that y'all understand about God or have learned about God that maybe for us, like cis straight folks, like we may not make those connections, given our social location and all those kinds of things. And so I just wonder if each of you could talk about some of the ways that being queer or gay or trans has positively impacted the way that you see God. Some things that you've learned about God, some ways that some aspects of God's character that you think, because of who you are, it has opened you up to some things about God that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise.
I can start. So for me, would be music. That was a huge outlet growing up in the church and in like a religious setting was music. And I remember during my like church hopping, the first time that I heard a worship team similar to what Arlene does now, and I was just completely blown away because I was also very sick of just singing Gregorian chant the entire time. Um, in certain like masses or services. So that was like a great experience. Uh, but it showed me that it's okay to have a voice. Like just because you're quote unquote different or whatnot, however small your voice might be, or if you mumble through a lyric or through a prayer or just kind of keep your sayings to yourself, there is somebody who's listening. And I mean, for me, it's God, right? But it through that outlet, through having music and through singing again, and kind of like finding the voice that I thought that I had lost and that I didn't feel like I was allowed to sing.
Yeah.
Having a worship team, and shout out to Arlene for this, but having like her come up to me and like us getting to know each other and hearing how amazing she sounds on like just anything.
Seriously, right?
But also, yeah, but also just seeing herself lose herself in the music and the worship, and like you can feel God's presence when an individual is singing, and you just know that it's God singing to you. And I hadn't had that for so many years, so that was a huge impact for me. It drove me to actually like in my social awkwardness, because I'm a very shy and weird kind of person if I don't know you that well. To actually go and like introduce myself to her, but also like meet other people and kind of come out of this little, I'm in my own bubble where I'm safe and I'm like okay, I don't really have to like interact with other folks because they don't know me and I don't know them, and I have to, boundaries like church and state. It allowed me to be more open and to actually see a person for who they are and not automatically judge them, saying like, okay, if I talk a certain way or if I move a certain way, the conversation's not going to go well, so I'll just leave and just not come back. So it places you in the mindset of like, we're all the same, we all bleed the same color, there's really no difference. So I like to think that it's opened me up a lot more because I used to be very closed off. So thank you all.
I love that.
I appreciate it.
That's so beautiful. I love that so much. Oh, Locker Sabrina.
Yeah, kind of along the same lines. Like, I guess um, when when you've had bad experiences and stuff, and for so long you've kind of go into this like putting your guard up, um, and it's really really hard to trust um, like I hate to say it, but like it was hard for me to trust like the church, like in general.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I felt afraid, even after the first. Like I know what you're saying, dude. Like even after the first time that we went there, like there was a tiny little part of me that was still still scared about, you know, well, I mean, like I know they accept me for this. Like I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
But it's on the flip side of that is seeing everyone like who we are, and like that has just been so wonderful.
Mm.
And it's like it's like it's not just like a weight lifted off our shoulders. It takes appreciation to like the next level, and it's just like so wonderful.
You feel seen and heard. It's funny to say it, but it's very much like I'm not just a wallpaper on a wall. Like I'm actually a living being, and you're actually seeing me for the first time.
Wow.
So it's an amazing experience because I think, at least for me, and I don't speak for anybody, but like just to have, much to your point, Sabrina, having somebody lend an ear really makes like a huge difference. Feeling seen makes a huge difference. So to have that and experience it is an awesome, liberating feeling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Well, for me, uh, your question kind of made just my faith really transformation after coming out. It was in having to wrestle with my sexuality that then I started to re examine all of my faith beliefs and
Mm.
all of the doctrine, and to recognize that, a lot of the things that the church said was true, I didn't believe aligned with what I read Jesus to be saying and teaching and
Mm.
living.
Right.
And I see now sometimes um, some of my family members who are Seventh day Adventists still, and there's just there's a lot of fear involved in having a faith that has to have such strict rules and that has to have, that has an understanding of God as judge who's going to condemn you for eternity if you screw up.
Mm.
Um, and so being queer and going through what I've gone through, I feel liberated me from
Mm.
that kind of faith and that kind of mindset. I mean, he even knows, like, when he first met me, how I made him pray not to be gay. And, like, if I had come to the final determination that yes, it was wrong, and God condemned gay people. Like, I would be one of those out there, like with the conversion camps or whatever. And
Mm,
I'm so thankful that instead I'm in a place where I can just be open and love people and receive people how they are,
yeah.
um, and have an understanding of God that's so much more open and gentle and loving.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that note, when I first met Serena, like she kind of, I mean, I had kind of more or less grown up, going to church, like on and off, but I didn't really understand like what I was reading. If I'd open the Bible, it's like thou giveth, and I don't know, like I was just like, what even is it saying? Like, would just kind of close the book and be like, okay, I'll put this on my nightstand, and I have the best of intentions to someday get to it. Um, and Serena like came along, she pretty much taught me how to read the Bible, and she would give me these little
Mm,
assignments, and like, okay, so read this and this, and like next time we get together, we'll talk about it. And I was like, okay, and so the more we did that, the more I learned. And like it just so happened that like a year later when um we well, we were separated for not by choice, but kind of
But that's another story.
you're right. So um it was like 3 months of pure hell pretty much
mm,
is what it felt like. But during that time, like because Sabrina taught me so much about learning how to read and pray and like really have a relationship with God. Like I was able to during during those 3 months kind of um yeah, just really do a whole lot of research and
mm,
a whole lot of reading the Bible and figuring out for myself um like what I believe to be true. And
yeah.
um so it like I learned a lot that otherwise I wouldn't have had to really think about.
Yeah.
Um, so
That's so, I love that so much. And I think both of you, I know for sure Sabrina and Dave, and I think Locke, you may have said this word too at some point, but you talked about being liberated, this idea of liberation. And I just, I know for me, like I have learned more about what like collective liberation looks like from queer folks and queer theology, like because it's like you've had like the level of which you've experienced that is so profound in a way that I don't know that I've ever even experienced before. And it's like when I'm hearing you guys talk and I'm seeing just this sincerity and this like um just the fruit of your lives is so good and so beautiful. And um it's just so funny when like when you were saying about how Sabrina would kind of helped you learn how to read the Bible. It like made me think, because of course it's Pride Month, so of course like all of the people are coming out of the woodwork to like say all the terrible things and do all the terrible things. And the famous line that so many people like to throw out there is like the gay agenda. And I'm like, ooh, that gay agenda, trying to teach folks how to read the Bible. That's, that's pretty, ooh, I don't know. You know? But I just think that's so beautiful that it's like, it's just, yeah, I love how you have experienced and are all continuing to experience this liberation of like who you are is so good and it's so beautiful and should be celebrated. And I love hearing you guys share those aspects of your story. It's really beautiful. Okay, we'll go ahead and go on. We just have a couple more questions, so we won't spend too terribly much more time. But I don't think people, when we do these conversations, I really don't think people care so much about how long it is, because I think I have been told by so many people that this is like their favorite thing that we do. And so I know that people are gonna love this just as much as all the others. But so you've each kind of shared how your relationship with the church has been a bit tumultuous in the past, and rightly so. Locke, when you said you were still guarded, and Dave, even you said that too, how you were like still hesitant because it's like, okay, when's the shoe gonna drop? When's like, of course you were. Of course you were guarded, like when your lived experience had been so traumatic up to that point. And yet you're here and you are still in some way, shape, or form finding some kind of meaning in the church and being a part of the body and being a part of a faith community. I guess my question for each of you is why? Why have you continued to be a part of the church and even to some degree love the church, love aspects of the church, when the church has not always loved you well? What keeps you around?
Well, sometimes in life I wonder, where's the line between hope and foolishness? Um,
Oh boy.
I tend to always find myself hopeful or foolish enough to think that things can be better. And for me, it was, I think, so I started seminary not having a church home. I actually started seminary shortly after kind of our worst church breakup.
And that's what it feels
And
like too.
yeah,
Feels like being dumped. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
and my intention in going to seminary was not to become an ordained minister and not to ever serve in a church. But I was more focused on like chaplain in hospice or in a prison or something like that. And but then a couple kind of like transformational things in seminary for me in this process was I took a class on forgiveness, and for the semester we each had to choose basically like our little forgiveness project, and I chose to work on forgiving the church,
Wow.
specifically the church that had been our most recent bad relationship. And that was really transformational and helped me. Uh, yeah, I don't know if forgiveness is ever 100% done and over with. It's kind of, I think, kind of like grief. You deal with it over and over again. But that helped me deal with it a lot. And then, uh, surprise to me, I had to do an internship at a church if I wanted to have enough hours to graduate. And so at the last minute, I got in at this new church start and was the intern there for the summer. And that was, the first time going back to church on a regular basis for a while. And it just helped me see that I still had a place in church,
Mm.
and that the church, revived that hope that the church could still be something good.
Yeah.
Um, and that I still had a place in it. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, like going back to when I first met Sabrina, like, and well, just all my life, like when I would be going to church regularly, um, it felt more or less like I was doing the right thing, or like if I would watch it on TV, like because my mom uh, had pretty severe like, COPD, so she couldn't really get out a lot.
Mm.
So we would watch we'd watch it together on TV sometimes, and just like during those times, it just felt like I was in the right place.
Mm.
Um, and when I met Sabrina, and I saw like God's love in her, like I had never seen before, like except like in my mom, and like but even Sabrina, like she lived it like 27. I was like she's just what I need, like
Mm.
even if it's like just being a friend or whatever, like because I knew I had a giant crush on her, but like but I was like if I could just be her friend, like even um and
and I think I don't know what he saw in that strange kid I was.
um but like I've just always like and she taught me like how to read the Bible and pray and got me back into church, like, and it was like not like anything else that I had ever experienced. And
Mm.
every time, like, even despite like our bad times, like when I've just when I have like a church, it's like I've had almost kind of like a home base, like it's just like
Mm.
my home. And
Yeah.
when during those times when I wouldn't have that, it was like I'd have an empty spot.
Mm.
Um,
It's like I kind of feel like when we have that church home, it feels like our life's more on track
Mm.
mhm.
with where we want to be.
And it just feels like my heart like whole again, kind of. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Dave, what about you?
For me, I just think it's always been a part of me in general.
Mm.
Um, it might be the influence that I had just because I was raised so full with it,
Mm-hmm.
but I also, to go off of Locke, it's a space of refuge.
Mm.
And while my mind at times might disagree or feel guarded or cold towards it, there's always just something inside that's just like, you'll get over it. Like, you belong here. You're fine. When I was in seminary school, I was a rebellious student, but only because I would wander a lot. There was this cathedral like chapel that we had, and I tended to, whenever I had a break in between classes, I would just wander the halls, and I just felt at peace because I was in this like church setting, and there was like soft music because somebody was playing a piano or something in like one of the music rooms. But just walking in those halls, just knowing that it's like a religious setting, there was a sense of warmth and comfort, saying like, this is like, you're fine, like, you belong here. And while it didn't end the way that I had hoped, at least the departure part, it's very hard for me to picture my life without a church setting or a religious setting. Well, mainly because of the people that I've met, whether the church was affirming or not. I mean, it really wasn't a big deal because I could hide if I want to. I'm very easy at that. It's easy for me. But just knowing that I could, in some areas like this, find like-minded people and just find comfort, even if it's just me sitting alone in a chapel, which I sometimes still do. I'll like go find a chapel I have a lot of my mind and just like light a candle and just sit there and just be quiet and just listen. It's a safe space. It's a nice space, and it's a comfort to know that when the entire world is or seems against you, it's just a spot that you can always count on, whether you have a support system, which is great, but also if it's just yourself and God there, that's really all you need.
Yeah. Oh, thank you guys for sharing all of that. And, you know, there was a story, a friend of mine, we were at a gathering of pastors and faith leaders several months ago, and one of the pastors that was there, he is a gay man and has been a pastor for decades and has endured a lot. As I'm sure we can all imagine, you know, just decades in ministry as a gay pastor, you know, you're bound to come across a lot of just really hard situations. And my friend asked him, he said, what keeps you going? Why are you still doing it when the church as a whole, you know, has often been so terrible to you? And his response, like, he just looked at him and he said, because I'm not going to let anyone take Jesus away from me. And that, I will never forget that response, you know, of this, like, not like a like rude defiance, but like this defiance of like, no, like, I'm not going to let, you know. And Sabrina, I love how you said, like, this, is it foolish, or is, you know, this hopeful, or is it foolishness, you know? But I think that, I feel like so much of faith is that, where it's like, it seems very foolish sometimes to continue to hold out hope for things when everything around us is saying otherwise. But I loved that, of like, no one's taking Jesus from me. Like, I'm not going to let anyone's theology, anyone's opinion, like, they don't get to take that from me. And I just thought that was, I will never forget that. And I will never forget your guys' responses either. I mean, just that hope and that sense of belonging, and that something inside of you that just, church just feels like home. Like, I think I can relate to that to some degree, you know, I think that's why I still do what I do, because there's something about being a part of a faith community that feels like home. And so, yeah. But thank you guys so much for sharing all of that. We are, approaching the end of our time here, but I did want to wrap up with just to end it kind of on a joyful note. I would love if each of you could just share, and this could be anything at all right now in your life. It doesn't have to have anything to do with the conversation we just had. But what is something right now for you that is bringing you joy?
Well, for me, I um, have several things. My animals, we have chickens and a pig and a dog and a cat and watermelon. Love the summer when the watermelons come out and Locke and I just cut the top off and eat out of it with a spoon.
The
Yum.
watermelon is our boy.
Yes. And we just recently restarted watching Schitt's Creek.
Oh.
And that's
So-
SC.
Yeah. It's the best.
Town.
So
It's like one of my favorite shows
that's always a
ever.
good laugh.
Yes.
Yeah. You can. It's one of those things you can watch again and just laugh just as hard,
Yes.
if not harder, this time around.
What about for you?
Well, woodworking. Like, I love doing that and getting to be creative and make stuff, and especially if it's for people, I really love that. There's something like so much more fulfilling if it's like making it for somebody else, and like yeah.
I love that. Love it. Dave, what about you? What's bringing you joy right now?
Well, first and foremost, my nutball of a dog, Bear.
Oh.
That guy he's been through it with me. He's a quarantine dog, so he was like a panic purchase, is what I call him. But he's been the greatest like addition. I live alone, so like having another like companion with me is great, as psychotic as he may be.
Yeah.
But been a joy and a great like addition to my little family. What else?
What kind of dog?
This, guys, I think is awesome.
Aw.
I tend to live under a rock, which is not great. So, and Bear forces me out of my like dark little apartment, which is good
Yeah.
because I have to remember what he looks like. And writing. I used to write a lot when I was younger, and I had this like book full of poetry, and I started writing again, and I haven't had like a huge creative writing session in so long until recently, so where it's like coming out like word vomit. And I started my own like tiny little Instagram page with my poetry on there.
Oh.
So
You're
that's-
gonna have to tell us what's your Instagram handle so we can all go and follow you. If that doesn't make you nervous, I'm like.
Oh, you're totally cool. I will be very honest and say that I'm horrible at like posting stuff, but it's thoughts in my head, all lowercase 029. And I only have the 3 up there, but I know there's more. I just have to like remind myself to actually add them in because I have a lot that I haven't added in.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I did not know that you were a writer. I love that.
I'm a huge
Ah,
fan.
well, you guys you're all amazing. And I think the world of all of you. And you guys deserve joy. Like, you deserve rest and you deserve joy and, goodness and all of that. And I'm just grateful for you guys taking the time out and being vulnerable and sharing part of your story. And it's also such a great way too, because it's like, since we've been virtual for so long and a lot of people have joined the church since we've been virtual, like, this is also a great way for us to get to know each other and to hear each other's stories. And it reminds us that we're all human and we're all the same, and and that we're way more alike than we are different. I think this is what these kinds of conversations remind me. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being willing to come and share part of your story with us today. Well, sorry about that. We were about to go back to worship for a second. Well, oh goodness, wasn't that just the best conversation? That was it was so meaningful. And so again, Dave, Locke, and Sabrina, thank you so much for sharing your part of your stories with us, and for taking the time to kind of give all of us a little bit of a window into your life and your experiences. And we just love you, and we're so grateful that you're a part of this community. Just really quick, as we wrap up, I just have a few things to make you aware of. The first thing is we have a few different times as a church donated to a local organization here in the San Marcos Kyle area called the Bobcat Pride Scholarship Fund. And it's a organization that's based out of Texas State University, but what they do is they provide monetary support for LGBTQ folks who are facing financial hardship. And so if you would like to give towards that fund today or sometime this month in honor of Pride, or just whenever, just wanted to let you know that is on there. When you go to our giving page, you can select Bobcat Pride in the drop down, and then you can give some monetary donations to that, and we will make sure that they get that. And then secondly, next Sunday is the last Sunday of the month. And so once again, we are gearing up for an in-person gathering. However, we're doing something a little bit different this time. Instead of having a typical service, we are actually going to we're going to meet at Greg Clark Park in Kyle. And we're just asking folks to bring breakfast items to share. And we're just going to gather and hang out and eat together. There's a huge park right there, so all the kids can play. Just a time to get together and chat and hang out and develop our relationships even further. And then simultaneously, virtually, next week, we're going to have a virtual Zoom gathering where you can kind of bring your breakfast and coffee with you and gather over Zoom just to chat and get to know each other better. So that's next week. And then lastly, today, if you are local, today is the Lockhart Pride Festival. It's actually, Lockhart is, for those of you who don't know, it's a little small town that's located here in kind of about 20 to 30 minutes away from Kyle, where we are. But they are having their first ever Pride Festival, and so Icon is actually setting up a booth at the festival, which the amazing Pastor Sabrina is heading that up, and I believe there's some other folks that are going to be joining her as well. We're just going to pass out some information about the church and some snacks and some water, and just be there to talk with people, to hear their stories, and just to show support. So if you don't have anything going on today between 4 and 10 p.m., we'd love to invite you to come on out, say hello, and be a part of the festivities. So anyway, that is all that we have for you today. Thank you for bearing with us for a longer Sunday service, but I think it was worth it because it was such a great conversation. And as usual, thank you all for sharing parts of your stories in the chat and for being engaged. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for this beautiful community that we are all building together. So I hope you all have a fantastic Sunday and a great week. And we will see you next week for our virtual and in-person gatherings. And we hope that you guys all enjoy time with family and friends today and this week. And we will see you next Sunday.